What is up, Temple fam? This video is going to be really great if you're looking to create something and you're wanting to create a business and go beyond the hustle culture. Because this is something that I learned from my own mistakes, if I'm real, where I was trying to create from a place of lack, from scarcity, and it kept me running on this hamster wheel. And for the longest time, I was wondering, why is this happening? How can I stop this so I can actually sit back, relax, and enjoy my business instead of feeling like I need and holding so tightly to just make the next amount of money, to make the next client, and this constant treadmill where eventually it led me to burnout. So this is going to be a little bit of a teaching of how you can do that to avoid that process so you don't have to worry about burning out and you can create from a place of alignment. For me, this is one of the most important things when I'm creating and something I focus on so deeply now. And so this is fundamentally an energetic component. It's a component of knowing, okay, where am I moving from? And this is different to a feeling. A feeling isn't quite energetic. A feeling is an emotion that's happening within the body. The energetic is the state of consciousness from which you're creating from. Now, this is important. We want to be creating from a very aligned place of, and when I say alignment, what I mean by that is a state of, I want to create more of this within my world. So if you're creating from a state of lack, of scarcity, your state of consciousness is in survival. So what you're telling yourself is, I just need to get to this next stage. I need to get, like, think of hunters gathering, like there's a lot of survival element. I just need to get the next kill. I need to just get the next piece of resource. There's a limited capacity to be looking at the bigger picture and expanding on currently where you're at. It's focused on just getting by, just getting the next thing. So when you go to create, what you're going to create is a way for you to just get the next thing. So how I saw this show up in my own business was when I would be running low on money or I felt like I needed to top up the bank account, I'd be like, okay, I can just lower my offers, get some quick clients in, and then have money coming in. But what this did was meant I would overgive in my services. My energy would be depleted and low because I wasn't receiving what I needed to receive to for this to be sustainable. So at the end of that time with the client, I was at a depleted energy state, and this is goes into more survival. So it was like, oh well, now I need the next one and the next one, and it was this constant repetition that was slowly sinking the ship because I was creating from a place of lack and unconsciously telling me myself that there wasn't enough. So the other state we can create from is one of abundance. This is where we're seeing possibility, where we're open to, like, that anything could happen right here, that your situation could completely change in right now. And what stops us from being in this state is generally fear. Fear condition that stems from conditioning and a belief system that's been conditioned to you from family, from society, from culture, whatever it was some conditioning that made you think, okay, there isn't enough. When it comes to money, like sayings such as money doesn't grow on trees, that's a big one for many people. That's like, well, I need to work really hard for money. And if I'm not doing that, well, then clearly I won't be creating money. See the problem. See the problem. So it creates this cycle of, I need to work hard, and if I'm not working hard, I can't create money. And there's this unconscious pattern playing out. And what we actually want to do is go beyond that. So that box that people are living in because of that conditioning, that the sides of that box are held in place by fear. And that fear will tell stories like, if you let go, if you stop working so hard, you won't make money. And then you'll have to get a job or you'll be homeless, everyone will leave you, you won't be loved. And under it, that's probably the deepest fear. You won't be loved. You won't be accepted. People will reject you. You'll be worth nothing. But that fear will show up in a story of, okay, if you're not working so hard, you'll run out of money. This was mine. You'll have to say goodbye to the house, sell everything, and you'll be poor and broken alone. And so because that story was there, I was afraid to stop working so hard because that was my boundary. Think of a 10-pin bowling where there's the sides on the lane to help the ball come in. This fear wall is a thing that helps people come back in so they don't go outside of what is known. And so, what I needed to do, and what everyone needs to do, is actually meet this fear and become okay with sitting in this fear. And this is very uncomfortable. And underneath it, because it's not really about the fear, it's the emotion that that fear has locked in place. And this could be a trauma, it could be a belief system, it's something that is actually beneath that. But the fear and the emotions that begin to arise as we near that situation, because what happens when we're afraid of a situation, we actually create it because we're saying, I can't have that, but we're putting energy over there because we're trying to push it away, but you can only push it so far away, and this takes energy to be pushing it away. So eventually you're like, oh my God, I can't hold it out. I can't hold it out. And this is what was happening to me as I was going into burnout because I was having less energy. So I was making less money and my fears were coming closer that I was going to lose everything. I was going to lose everything. And eventually it did happen. But the fear was what I needed to meet because when I actually let that fear in and sat in the emptiness of I have nothing, because I had to create that reality in my physical environment. You don't have to. This is the importance of this. You can come to terms in this in another way, which I'll share really shortly. When I came to terms in that and allowed myself to collapse inwards to that fear, there was grief and feelings of unworthiness and my own judgments against myself that I had been ignoring. That my own sense of unworthiness was still living within myself that I had been ignoring. And so when that situation happened, I was like, oh my God, I got to come home because so much of my energy was going on pushing myself out to try and make myself more because there was an inadequacy within myself because I hadn't met myself at a deeper level and showed myself the love that I needed to meet. And so, as a cover up, I tried to do so much. And when I collapsed in, I got to love this part of myself and return to a greater sense of wholeness. This allowed me to heal, and it actually allowed the development of a whole new business, how I was operating, and money began to flow again. But it was that situation that I had to create because I was so opposed to scarcity. I was so afraid of it. I was so rejected of it. And this path of service is an alchemical path. It wants us to open to the possibilities. And if we reject any possibility, the universe will be bringing it closer until we meet it so that we can begin to heal and return to a greater sense of wholeness. This is the journey. So how we actually begin to move from that place of scarcity into one of abundance is consciously allowing ourselves to feel these situations that we're afraid of and going into them and getting to know what we're afraid of. If you find yourself in the hustle culture and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not even sure. It just feels unconscious. I don't know how to stop. You begin, and you can begin this with anything. If it's like a relationship that you're not sure about, or you don't know how to leave, or you don't know what to happen, you can ask yourself, what are you afraid to lose? And it might be very rational things of like, well, I'm afraid to lose my partner, I'm afraid to lose the house, I'm afraid to be poor and broke, whatever the situation is, and then ask yourself, what would this mean for me? What would this situation mean for me if I was poor and broke? For me, that was meant I was unlovable, no one would care for me, and I would end up alone and dying by myself. And that was the thing, the undercover of what I was afraid to be, this deep fear of like aloneness and being by myself. And it was like, oh, and then sitting with that underneath fear because it's one thing to bring awareness to it, and then it's another to allow yourself to feel that feeling. And for me, that was triggered from a childhood wound where I didn't feel loved as a child. And so when we begin to heal these patterns, we see that it's based on our condition, and when we're healing the self or the generational trauma that needs to be healed so we can come to a greater sense of wholeness. So when you begin to meet these fears, you'll actually see there's something deeper that is making you adhere to the fear. And when you begin to heal that deeper layer by feeling the emotion, you'll begin to be able to create in a different way. You'll begin to create in a way that feels more free and more abundant, more opening. So no longer are you creating from a place of lack, because lack is a sign that you feel you're lacking something within yourself. You're saying something outside of myself can give me something I don't have. Now that means there's a deeper layer of healing that needs to occur for you to meet, for you to become okay and allow that healing to occur. And this takes time. It takes time. And this isn't a place to judge. If you're like, oh, I'm creating from lack and you judge, that's probably the pattern that is keeping you in a place of lack. Because it's about bringing love to that lack. About, oh, there's a part of me that doesn't feel good enough. Can I love that? Can I come in relationship with that and hold it to heal? Because that is actually what's needed. For this to heal, you need to come into relationship with it and allow it to soften. So no longer it needs to hold, no longer it needs to be doing everything. And you can begin to come into a deeper sense of self, because when we are connected to ourselves and we're whole and we feel ourself online, we create in an aligned way. It just happens naturally because our natural state is one of abundance. Scarcity is a conditioned response to the systems and the structures of society. So when you begin to heal this, you'll begin to operate from a place of possibility, from that place of abundance, and you'll see opportunities where before you could only see a tunnel vision. Your awareness, your consciousness will expand, and you'll be like, oh my God, I could actually build here that extends over time, that allows more streams of income, that opens up different ways of thinking. Maybe you get a new idea for a different program or something you've never considered for, or that someone comes in your awareness and you realize they would be the perfect client and you know exactly what to offer them. This is about opening to the possibility of what's alive and possible within this world. So this is how you move from a place of scarcity to one of abundance. It's by meeting the underlying fears that are existing within your system, so that then you realize that you are more than your fears and you can connect back to your innate wholeness. Enjoy.